Underline barefoot, you know, wearing nothing in the feet. It's understood. Shuffles means what? Sliding, you know, switching over each other, right? That is shuffling. Then, perpetual state of poverty. Please underline that. What is that? Perpetual state of Anamika. Okay. Okay, Anamika. Perpetual state of poverty means continuous, never ending, right? So you can write never ending condition of being poor. That is perpetual state of poverty. So now we get to see that the writer had known Sahib for a few months. Yeah, when she asked him his name. Okay, so he is replying as if he was making an announcement that his name was Sahib-e-Alam. And the writer thought that the boy did not know the meaning of his name. And if he came to know that his name meant what? Lord of the universe, underline that, Lord of the universe, he would not be able to believe it. See, he would have a hard time believing it means what? It would be really very difficult for this little fellow like Sahib, an illiterate, poverty-stricken fellow, to believe that his name meant the Lord of Universe. So that's irony there. Again, his life is just, sorry, his name was opposite to his life. He went around the streets with a group of friends. He's always seen with other children. Okay. And it was like an army of boys who did not wear any footwear at all. Author is saying. And they appeared in the mornings like what? Like the morning birds and disappeared at noon. Early morning they'll start their work and by afternoon they are done and they just vanish. And the writer could recognize all of them as she had been seeing them for the past few months. Every single child was very familiar for this author. And now the author asked one of them that why he was not wearing any footwear. And the boy simply replied that his mother did not get them down from the shelf. As what is the meaning of that? They were beyond his reach and he did not wear them. Okay, so in reality, they didn't possess, the boys didn't possess a shoe or a chappal, nothing of their own, and they could not afford to buy one. So another boy who was wearing a different shoe in each foot said that even if his mother would have given him the footwear, he would have thrown it away. Okay, and he meant that the boy was not wearing footwear because he did not want to wear one. Okay, it's not because he is not having one, it's because he didn't like wearing one. And writer asked the second boy the reason for wearing a different shoe in each foot. So now he did not reply and he just shuffled his feet as he tried to hide the shoes. It was an embarrassing moment for the boy because he could not afford one and he might have found two different chuckles from the garbage while scrounging and he might have worn it. So he didn't have an answer for it. So he just kept shuffling to cover up that, just avoid that question. He just kept shuffling his legs. Now, see, the writer takes the example of shoes to highlight what, your children? Just to highlight the condition, the prevailing condition of these little boys. Okay, they searched the garbage dumps looking for such precious things. They're scrounging, no, they're searching for gold, is what she said in the beginning. So, this is what the precious things that they are searching for, which further tells us that as she traveled across the country, she had seen many children walking barefoot in the cities as well as in villages. And they reasoned that they were barefoot not due to lack of money to buy footwear, but why? But being barefoot was a tradition for them. Okay, and the writer wondered and concluded that the reason of it being a tradition was a mere excuse to hide what? The fact that they were so poor that they could not afford to buy a footwear. So just to hide that fact, they are telling that it's just part of our tradition, not wearing shoes or chappals. From our great grandfathers onwards, nobody has ever worn slippers. So we are just following. It is a tradition that we are following. Lakshya, okay, do you have any doubts? Your hands? Okay, so this was a way of escapism. They didn't want to reveal. They didn't want the others to know their state, their poverty-stricken state. They just wanted to hide it from others. Though others could make it out easily, the author is telling that they were telling this reply. Why? This is only because, not because we are not able to buy the chappal or the shoes. We can't. It's not because we can't afford. It's only because it's a tradition. We have at home, have the shoes at home, but then we are not wearing it because it's a part of our tradition. So what we have to underline is what? Please underline from here. Even if she did that paragraph, I want shoes, says a third boy traveling. Yeah. A third boy who has never owned a pair all his life, traveling across the country. I have seen children walking barefoot. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. It's not author's explanation, the explanation that she has received from these children when inquired. Okay. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Just an explanation for remaining this. So that means what? They have inherited what children? Poverty from their parents. Yeah? Father was like this. Grandfather was like this. Grandfather's father was like this. So they have just inherited what? The lineage is what? Poverty. So that's a perpetual state of poverty. Very consistent. The state is very consistent. Okay? No ups and no downs. It is going in a straight line. The graph is very straight. So it's very consistent. No one has improved their lives. No one has tried to improve their lives, and no one has succeeded in improving their lives. Is it very clear, children? Yeah. Now let's see. Ritika has a mic issue. Otherwise, I would have made you read Ritika. Yeah. Next is Nidal. Nidal, can you read it for me, Nidal? Are you there? Please turn on the camera, children. Many of you have kept the camera off. Nidal, are you there, Mone? Nidal, are you there? Or just log in and left. Camera is also off. Okay, Neha.
Yes, ma'am.
Nidal, can you read the next part from where we stopped? Like from there. You were there in the class, no? Nidal left. Nidal, are you there? I don't have time to waste. Okay, Gauri Sanjeev, please read it for me, Gauri. Which page? Those who are not attending. Page number, Gauri? Unmute. 14. Yes, now read.
I remember a story of once told me. As a young boy who would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest, he would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. In the backyard where he lived, the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform wearing socks and shoes arrived panting and threw his school bag on a folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes, but many others like rag pickers in my neighborhood remained shoeless.
Okay, we just explain that part. Please, join. Okay, Ryan. Okay. Some of you are having network issue. I'm getting messages throughout. Okay. Okay. Now, please underline the word desolation. Desolation. Desolate means what?
Abandoned, isolated.
Barren, deserted, right? Exactly. Panting means what, children? Panting.
Take deep breaths after exhaustion.
Yeah. Yes, taking short and quick breaths. Once you run, you pant. Yeah. If you exert yourself, you pant. So now the narrator narrates a small story about a man from Udupi. No, Udupi, you have heard Udupi Krishnan? Udupi temple is very famous. Udupi is a town in Karnataka. Okay. So when she is narrating a story of a boy. Okay, when this boy was a very young boy, he would walk to a school. There was a boy who was very young and he would walk to school. On the way, he would cross a temple where his father worked as a priest, and he would stop at the temple and pray to God. Yeah, he would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. See, he would pray to God to bless him with what? A pair of shoes. So after 30 years, the writer visited the town and the town, this place, town and this temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. Now the place was nearly empty. Okay, where that boy used to live. And the new priest lived in the backyard of the temple. Not the same priest which was there 30 years ago. There's a new priest and he has shifted his house and he is staying at the backyard of the temple. And plastic chairs in red and white colors were kept there. That's what she noted. And the young boy came running from that house. And he was wearing what? Grey color school uniform. Okay. Socks, shoes, all these things. He had a school bag hung on his shoulders. Okay, and he threw it on the bed and ran away. So the writer wants to say that the financial position of the priest in the temple had improved over the last 30 years. Are you getting me, children? Yeah, writer is trying to tell that the financial condition of that priest who used to live in that place 30 years ago had improved over those years. Now, he could afford shoes for his child. And she was reminded of another boy who got a pair of shoes again in this. And he prayed to the goddess that he may never lose the shoes that he had got. Yeah, and the goddess had granted, according to the author, the goddess has granted his prayer as the boy never lost his pair. And this shows us that what the underprivileged value anything that they get because they have been longing for it. Yes, these underprivileged people would value anything that they get in their life. Not like you people. You are given some gift, you would always look at the price, you would check what all features are not there in that particular thing which you have got. What actually you wanted, you make a comparison. You don't value anything. Most of it. Yeah, it's general, commonly, generally speaking. Okay, so usually children have that tendency. What you have got, you're not satisfied, but you don't have, you're looking for that. But for these underprivileged children, they are so happy with whatever, happy and content with what they get. Because why? It's very, very hard for them to get things like that in their life. Is it very clear, children? Can I move on? So she's just referring to a small incident in between this Sahib's story. Now moving on. Yeah. Risha Nilkumar, please read the next part quickly. Risha Nilkumar, turn on the mic, camera, nothing is on. Risha. So all those who have kept the camera off, consider your attendance marked as absent here. Those who have informed here, yes, of course, we will take note of that. Risha Nilkumar is there? Amrita? Amrita? 12C, Amrita. Are you there, Amrita? Sneha, quickly, model.
My acquaintance with the barefoot rat pickers leads me to Seemapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it, metaphorically. Those who live here are squatters who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. Sahib's family is among them. Seemapuri was then a wilderness. It still is, but it's no longer empty. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage, or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. They have lived here for more than 30 years without an identity, without permits, but with ration cards that get their names on voters' lists and enable them to buy grain. Food is more important for survival than an identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that give us no grain. Say a group of women in tattered saris when I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit homes. Children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival. And survival in Simapuri means rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it is a leaking roof. But for a child, it is even more.
Okay, thank you, Smita. Thank you so much. Please underline permits, underline quickly. Permits means what? Legal documents. Okay, one should have as a citizen of a country. Permits. Tattered means torn. Tattered means torn clothes. Acquaintance, acquaintance, a contact, a friend, yeah, okay. Periphery means what? Outer area, outskirts, periphery, outer area, outskirts, okay. Metaphorically means symbolically, yeah, symbolically. Metaphorically means symbolically. Then squatters. Squatters are illegal tenants. Okay, squatters means illegal tenants. A person who unlawfully occupies an uninhabited land or building or yeah, unused land and all. I don't remember. Okay. Kayyettakar. That's what squatters. Okay. Wilderness means a wasteland. Wilderness means wasteland. Wilderness. Tarpaulin, you know, it's heavy duty waterproof cloth. Tarpaulin, you have all seen blue color, different colors, okay, black color. So now the writer describes the area where these rank picker boys live. Underline Simapuri. No, where is it? It's located on the outskirts of Delhi. Okay. Yet miles away from it. Why? Because Delhi was very different from the capital of the country. Now, the place where they are living. Okay. The Delhi where they live was very different from the capital of the country. So in 1971, when these rag pickers had, please underline the year and also it's very, very important paragraph. You can mark the paragraph as very important. So, 1971, when these rag pickers had migrated from Bangladesh, the area had been a wasteland when they pitched there. Okay, Simapuri was still a wasteland, but now it was not empty as almost 10,000 rag pickers lived there in structures made of mud, with roofs made of tin sheets of tin or plastic materials called tarpaulin. That's how their hutments or their cottages were built. And there was no sewage, drainage was not there, no running water facility was there, nothing was there in Simapuri. Okay, they just came and occupied that place and they just started living there. And they lived in a very unhygienic conditions. So it was a piece of wasteland where the garbage of the city was collected. So these people had started living there. How? Illegally. Okay, they just found a place comfortable for them where they can find some job like picking garbage and all. They just settled there. Okay, so now the rag pickers had been living illegally in Simapuri for the last 30 years. Okay, they had lived there for more than 30 years. I hope you have underlined and kept a mark and kept that paragraph. 30 years. Now, they have occupied the area without government permission or any sort of ownership. So, the politicians of that area have provided them what? Ration cards and voter identity cards. You know, the whole politics behind it. So they got grocery for their family through these ration cards, and in return, what they should do, they should cast their votes in favor of these politicians who had helped them acquire these ration cards. Is it? Are you following? Yeah. So that's the whole deal.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the writer asked a group of women who were wearing torn saris that why did they leave their homes in Dhaka? She was just curious to know. That green, lush green fields of Dhaka, they just left that place and came. And they replied that what? That if they were able to satisfy the hunger of their families and sleep well at night, they happier to live in Simapuri than their fields in Dhaka, which were ruined and gave them no food because of the climatic conditions that prevail in Dhaka, that atrocious weather. Extreme, the weather was extreme there. Okay, storms, heavy rain. It was flooding. It was so they could not manage to gather food for them for their family. They were really happy, more than happy, to live in Simapuri in this living condition than living in a place like that in Dhaka. So, what is a transit home, children? By the way, it's a temporary house. They keep like tent and all. They keep moving while they are shifting. So these people travel in search of food, and wherever they found it, they set up a temporary home and started living there. That's their pattern. Okay, and their children kept on going there, and gradually they also started helping their parents in seeking means of survival. They are just in the outskirts of Delhi, and there is no way they can go to any schools or anything. So when they gave birth, their children, the new generation that were born in Simapuri just followed what their parents did. They just imbibed their parents' way of survival. Okay, so they just wanted a means of survival, and they just started doing the same. So for those who lived in Simapuri, the means of survival was what? Just rag picking. And as they had been doing it for many years, they became trained at rag picking and did it so well. For the rag pickers, the garbage was what? As precious as gold, and these families searched garbage dumps and got things which they sold to fund their food. Okay, and they gathered torn or damaged sheets which were used to cover the roof of their homes, and these did not cover them well, but still provided them with what? Some protection for the children, and the garbage dumps were more than means of survival for these children. Okay, so for them this was heaven. The Simapuri, the place where they have settled now, is heaven for them. Though it is a little hell, a small hell. So it's garbage to them as gold is hyperbole here. The literary device implied here is hyperbole. It's exaggerated and told. Do you think garbage can ever become gold for anyone? Never. So it is exaggerated by the author to give that impact of garbage and the style of living they lead. What they actually get or how they survive with these garbages is highlighted by telling that garbage to them is gold, and it is their daily bread. And see, you have to underline this. What yeah, I heard, ma'am. I'll stop. I heard. So through the years, it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. I heard. Fine art. You have to underline that. It's a very, very key sentence. So what is acquired? The proportion of a fine art? Is it any art form? No. The art of picking rags. Yes, if you have observed these rag pickers who come to your house, you know they have a way of collecting waste materials from. They know how to sort it. In fraction of a second, they would just Separate all these plastic things into one section, paper into one section, metals into one section, bottles into one section. It is an art. When you watch them, you will realize that they do it so artistically, so aesthetically. Okay, we'll discuss about it in the next class. Till then, bye children. I'll meet you on Monday. Yeah, you can disperse. You can take a short break and come back to your respective classes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
A equal to 2 minus 3, 5, 3, 2 minus 4, 1, 1 minus 2, 1, 1 minus 2. The matrix is given. You are asked to find A inverse. Okay. Using this, that is using A inverse, solve. So in this question, you must not solve the equation first. First, you have to find A inverse, and using that, you have to solve the equation. Solve that will be connected. That is equation. This equation will be connected. Okay, equal to 11. You can see that the coefficients are same here. Okay. Y minus 4z equal to minus 5 and x plus y minus 2z equal to minus 3. Okay. So first find out A inverse. A inverse means it is will you find the inverse?
Yes, ma'am.
How will you find the inverse? Children, how will you
At J by dictate.
by dictate? Okay, find out. Find out. Okay, I think it is time to start the exam. Okay. Now, children, the time allotted for the exam is 15 minutes. Okay. So within that you have to complete. So even though if you are not able to complete it, you have to submit. Otherwise, if you didn't submit, no mark. So even though if you didn't complete it, you just submit it. Okay, because this is the first exam. Okay, so you just complete it. Okay, so this one you can do as homework. This question. Okay, so that is first to find out the J. Then using that you can see that the coefficients are same here. Using that find out A inverse. Okay, sorry, solve the system. Okay, are you ready for the exam?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I will send the link to your WhatsApp. Okay.
Ma'am, can you send here also?
No, I can't send it now because I don't have the pen drive. So WhatsApp. Now, is there any difficulty?
Parents won't be home.
Eh?
So like parents aren't home.
Can't hear? Can't hear. Is there any difficulty? Please inform. Who was that? Children, please inform. Ismail, Nidal, Resh, I don't know who is this Reshma CM with the address. I told you in the Google Classroom you have to join with your names. There are many of them are not with your names. I will remove them. You cannot join like that. So I can see a Reshma here. So please rename it with your name. Ryan, Rohit, Risha, Sankir, Shezil.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I submitted to the Bindu, ma'am.
What?
Ma'am, I already submitted through WhatsApp to Bindu.
No, in Google Classroom have you submitted?
No.
And where you have submitted?
Ma'am, I submitted to my class teacher.
Submitted through what? WhatsApp?
Yes, ma'am.
No, you have to submit to Google Classroom. And I
Okay.
already told you, no. So do it like that. Shazil, Tejas, Uday, Vishnuvardhan, Vasudev. Vasudev, please join with your name. It's your father's name here. Then I don't know who is this Bindu Alam. Bindu Alam. So please rename it your name. We cannot identify with your parents' name. You know that I have already told you. Please be joined to the Google Classroom with your name, not with your parents' name. So I can see 2 or 3 names with your parents. Please make it rename with your names. Okay. Now Vasudev, I can see like Rijmohan. That is your ID in Google Classroom. It is given Rijmohan, not your name. Then another one is Prajis. I don't know who is this Prajis. So all these names, these are all coming from the missing names, and those who have not submitted, make it first, submit it today itself. Okay? Yeah? Simple? So, what were the answers? Today there is a practice session from 12:15 onwards. You know that now? 12:15 to 1 o'clock. So all must be present. Okay, so let's move back to our session. We were discussing about the electrical properties of solids. I told you how we have started with the molecular theory. I told you, no, the molecular orbitals are arranged in such a way that they are very closely packed. So when they are very closely packed, they will appear as band. We call it as a band. And we have different types of bands. I have given two names. Anyone remember two names? Two types of bands are there. Do anyone remember the names of the bands? Nobody. No one remember? Conduction band, very good. And the other one is? One more band is a conduction band and valence band. Very good. Valence band and conduction band. And I have given you another name also. Valence band, where the number of valence electrons are occupied. That is the highest occupied molecular orbital. We call it as HOMO, H-O-M-O, which is known as the valence band. And the next band where no electrons are there, which is called the conduction band. And this conduction band is known as LUMO, lowest unoccupied molecular orbital. So we have started with that, and I told you how to differentiate between the different types of conductivity on the basis of this. You might be remembering. That means we are dividing the metals into conductors, insulators and semiconductors. Before that, can you see the figure? Is it legible? Children? Is it legible? No? Then you do one thing, you take your textbook. Okay, you take your textbook in page number 25. I don't know what is your page number. Page number 25. Page number 25. 27. Okay, some of you are saying that it is page number 27. Did you see a figure? Can you see a figure?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, 25 in the old books and 27 in the new books. 27, yes. You can see the difference between the metals. Metals means the conductors. Then insulators and semiconductors. See how the energy can vary. In the case of metals, you can see either it has a partially filled band. Is it so? In metals, the valence band will be partially filled, or in metals, add an impurity is that either you have to add an electron rich impurity or you have to add an electron deficient impurity. Then such a process, after making this intrinsic, that kind is known as what we call is known as extrinsic semiconductors. Now I will explain it to you more clearly that what do you mean by extrinsic semiconductor. So please note that we are next going to explain the extrinsic semiconductors. So please listen carefully. So I am just explaining about extrinsic semiconductors. I told you, no, it should be either an electron rich. Okay, it should be either an electron rich or it should be an electron deficient compound. Electron deficient compound. Now let us take we have to make an intrinsic semiconductor extrinsic. Okay, so how do you make? Take an intrinsic semiconductor. Intrinsic semiconductor. So now I am taking silicon. Now tell me what is the valency of silicon? Again, many of you are switched off the video. I don't want to call you again and again. Those who don't have the problem, please switch on the video. You know that I am calling your parents one by one, so I will just definitely ask whether any problem with your network issues. If you don't have any problem with your network issues, please switch on the video throughout. Okay, my question is to Aaron. Aaron, can you tell me Aaron, are you there?
Yes, miss.
I can't see you. Aaron, I cannot see you. Aaron, are you there? Why are you switching off the video, Aaron? Aaron, answer me. Why are you always switching off the video? Tell me what is the problem? Unmute and tell me.
There's no problem. Miss.
Then why? No, I just call your parents now itself. I have your number now. Do you have any problem switching on the video? Whenever I call you, you never want to switch on the video. Now tell me what is the valency of silicon? Do you know silicon comes in which group in periodic table? In which group silicon comes?
Miss eighth, I guess.
Eighth group.
Yes.
Is there any group called eighth group? Aaron, are you here? Are you listening to me? You were there from the beginning of the class? Don't simply nod your head. For not my sake, you have to nod your head, okay? For your sake only. See, you know that teachers will ask the question. If you don't get the answer, you just leave you. No, we can't do anything from here. That you know very better. That's why you people are behaving like this. And you have this dialogue that after the last 2 weeks, study can make everything possible. Is it so? That is the dialogue now. 2 weeks study will make you everything possible. That is the slogan of Aaron. Is it so? Final exam, you study for 2 weeks. That's it. That's more than enough. Those who are studying from the beginning are what is called buddies. What is the other name we can use? Not buddy, post. They are posts. Is it so? Plan. Aaron? That is your principle, no? And keeping saying I don't know and keeping quiet is the best method to react to a teacher. That also you know very well. Okay, Tejas, can you have any idea which group silicon is placed? Tejas, do you know carbon in which group?
Yes, ma'am.
Which group carbon?
Silicon is in 14.
14. After carbon, which is the next member in that group?
Was after
After carbon, which is the next member in 14th group? No idea. Gopalakrishnan, will you please switch on the video?
Yes, ma'am.
The request from me.
Sure, ma'am. My video is on.
Why your video was off? Huh?
No. I actually didn't realize that was.
Now tell me, silicon comes in which group? Any idea, Gopalakrishnan?
Yeah, ma'am. Once again.
You're searching.
It's in the no, ma'am. No. It's in the same group as carbon. Right?
Yes, of course. No, tell me, carbon comes in which group? Yes, carbon in which group here?
Ma'am, I don't know which group, but I know its atomic number.
You don't know carbon in which group after reaching 12th standard? Gopalakrishnan, it's very shame. You have studied periodic properties. Next, you are going to study all these P block and D block elements as a single chapter. You are going to study.
Ma'am, 14th group, just recalled.
Okay. Now tell me, so silicon also comes in that group. Is it so?
Sorry, ma'am.
Silicon also comes in that group. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell me what is the valency of that group?
4.
What is the valency of 14th group?
4.
4. Okay, children. So you are taking this intrinsic semiconductors like silicon, germanium, etc., which has the valency is equal to 4. Okay. So if you make a conductor, semiconductor with a silicon or germanium, you know that suppose I write like this, silicon which has a valency 1, 2, 3, 4. Next it is connected to next silicon. Is it so? It's going on like this. Is it so? Next comes the another silicon and it's this network goes on with the 4 valency. You know that just like carbon. So here you can see here this is a covalent bond is formed because of the sharing of 2 electrons. So you know that each silicon shares 2 electrons with each other. Is it so? So this is how we are getting from the next part. Is it so? 4 electrons are there. They are sharing. Okay, are you following? So this is the shape of an intrinsic semiconductor. Now what we are doing now, we will dope with the, suppose we dope with the 15th group element. Doping, I told you what I mean by doping means inserting an element, a foreign element. Suppose I insert a foreign element with the 15th group. Can you give me one example for a 15th group element? Anyone? Any example for a 15th group element? 15th group means which family? Yes. Nitrogen family. Not nitrogen, okay. After that, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony. Yeah. So let us take now I am doping with the 15th group of phosphorus. So what we have to do is, what I am going to do is, you are replacing any one of the silicon with the phosphorus. Okay, are you getting me now? So now what I am doing is, I am replacing one of the silicon from here. Okay, replace one of the silicon from here, and you add this new substance. What is our new substance? Phosphorus. Now the thing is that what is the valency of phosphorus, children? Hello, what is the valency of phosphorus?
8.
Valency.
5.
5.
Valency of phosphorus is 5. Is it so? So we cannot have 1, 2, 3, 4 plus I can have an extra electron. Are you following me? Is it so? So when phosphorus comes, what problem comes now? So far silicon goes with only one, all bonds were there. But when phosphorus comes, phosphorus has the number of valence. I am asking about valence electrons. Yes, who told it is 5? Those who told the 5, it is correct. Not valency. I am talking about the number of valence electrons. Children, don't get confused. Okay. Nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth all comes in which group? 15th group. 15th group elements have valency 3, but the number of valence electrons are
5.
5. No confusion, no? We are taking the valence electrons. We are taking all the valence electrons. So phosphorus has 5 valence electrons. So I have shown these 5 valence electrons with this. Okay, so phosphorus has 5 valence electrons. Okay, now you again replace another silicon. You can not only one phosphorus, you can replace another silicon also. Again, I am adding another phosphorus here. So what happens again? 1, 2, 3, 4. Then an extra electron is there. Is it so? There are extra electrons are present. So you know that when there are extra electrons are present, what about their charge? What is the charge of the solid now? Can you say? Anyone say?
Negative.
Negative, no? Do you have any? Yes, of course negative. Because the number of electrons are more. It is not a neutral crystal. So what happens? These electrons are present, the free electrons are present over here, which makes it more negatively charged. And these electrons are very free to move because they are not bonded to any atom. Okay, they are free. These electrons are free. They are not bonded to any other atom, so they can keep on moving. So when the electrons move, what it indicates? What about their conductivity, children? What do you mean by conductivity? Conductivity means movement of. Conductivity means movement of
Electrons.
electrons. Electrons. So what happens here? Here, since we are doping with a 15th group element, we can have extra electrons in between. So the presence of this extra electron makes it more conducting. Clear? And since it has forming a negative charge, this type of semiconductor is called N-type semiconductor. Please note that why the name N has come here. N-type semiconductor. Okay, so in the case of N-type N stands for negative. Why negative? I told you already, because of the presence of more than electrons, free electrons, which makes it more conducting. So this kind of semiconductor is called N-type semiconductor. Children, is that concept clear? N-type semiconductor. Why do we put the name N? What is the term why we use N? N stands for negative. Why negative? Because of the presence of extra electrons. Why do we have extra electrons? Since we are doping, I use the term doping. I told you why we use the term doping means adding an impurity. That process is called doping. Okay. So if you dope a 14th group element with a 15th group element, there are more number of electrons are present which are very free to move, which makes it more conducting. Okay. Now we move on to another type of conductor. Can you say what is the next type of conductor? N type. Next will be
P-type.
P type. Of course, P. P stands for what?
Positive.
P of course stands for positive. Now, so let us see how we can form a P-type semiconductor. So next we move on to how to produce a P-type semiconductor. So what do you think? What is your imagination for having a P-type semiconductor? Is there any idea? What is the idea for a P-type semiconductor, children?
13th group.
What we have to do is that for a P-type semiconductor, what we have to do? We have to dope with a 13th group element. 13th group element. Okay. Can you give me an example for a 13th group element? Children, do you have any idea for a 13th group element? What is that? The 13th group.
Aluminium.
Aluminium. We don't take the first members because they are not that much reactive. No, that is why. And other than aluminium, any other children? Yes. Next after aluminium, next in gallium. Yeah, very good. Boron also. Boron, aluminium we don't take. After that, gallium, indium, gallium. Okay. Aluminium is correct. Now, you tell me what is its number of valence electrons in. Suppose we take gallium. Okay. Number of valence electrons in gallium is 3. Now, what we have to do is we are going to replace. Okay, you know that. So, I am going to replace this one of this silicon. Okay. Now, I have replaced with the gallium. Now, you know that for gallium only 3 electrons are possible. So, what happened is that this bond cannot exist. You know that this bond cannot exist. Okay. There are 3 electrons are there. There are 3 electrons here and there exists a hole here. A hole is created because there are no electrons are present. Please note that there exists a hole. This is a hole. Now you imagine what will happen now. This one of the electron from the next silicon, will jump here. Hello, are you following me now? Okay. Since there is
Yes,
a
ma'am.
hole, over here, you know that the silicon electron is there, and one of the electron from this here, it will move over here in this hole. So what will happen? Actually, electrons now when one of the electron is jumping from the neighbor side, another electron will jump here. This jumping will keep on going. What is jumping here, children? What is jumping? Who is jumping or what is jumping? Children? Hello? Yes, electrons are jumping to fill this hole. Okay. So actually, due to the absence of an electron over there, electrons are being jumped from the neighboring side to this holes. So what actually we can see is that actually electrons are jumping. But in effect, what we can see, this jumping of electrons we cannot see. More than that, what we can see? Can you tell me? What is the other criteria? What we can see? What will happen instead of this jumping? What will happen now? The holes will be moving from one side to another in the opposite direction where the electron has been moved. So actually, it will look like, please note that children, when you add a 13th group element, okay, one place will be vacant. Is it so? Okay. So to that place, the neighboring electron will jump. So that place will become a hole now. Is it so?
Yes, ma'am.
To that hole, the next electron will jump. So actually, what is being jumped? What is moving here? Electrons are actually moving. But in effect, what we can see only, we can see the holes are moving in the opposite direction. Holes means where the electrons are not there, they are moving in the opposite direction. What will be the charge of this holes? Since electrons are
Positive.
not there, charge will be always positive. So actually here also electrons are moving, which is responsible for its conductivity. Okay, this movement of electron from one atom to the next is actually responsible for its conductivity. But what happens here is that what we are seeing is that holes are moving in the opposite direction. Okay, opposite direction of the electron. Since these holes are having a positive charge, we call them as p-type semiconductor. Okay, like this, we have two types of extrinsic semiconductors, which are the n-type and p-type. Okay, now what is the use of n and p-type semiconductor? You know that in all electronic gadgets we use the transistors. Transistors we use now. They use the combination of NPN or PNP transistor or NP. You will study more in detail in physics also. We are going to study the next same portion in physics also. So what do you mean by NPN transistor? It's like a sandwich. Two N semiconductors are sandwiched. A p-type semiconductor is sandwiched between two n-type semiconductors. That is called NPN transistor. PNP means N semiconductor is sandwiched between two p-type semiconductors. So PNP transistor. So all these transistors, you know what is the use of a transistor, no? So these are made up of this n-type and p-type semiconductor. So I'll just conclude like this. What do you mean by semiconductor? Semiconductors can conduct electricity if you apply temperature. They are polyintrinsic semiconductors. Almost 14th group elements are behaving as semiconductors. Now we can improve its conductivity by doing a process. What do you call that process? Is known as doping. You can either add electron-rich impurities like a 15th group element, or you can either add electron-deficient compound, that is 13th group element. If you add electron-rich impurities like a 15th group element, you can see that free electrons are there, which will create negative or more negative and which will keep on moving. This electrons are moving, so they are known as n-type semiconductors. If you dop it with a 13th group element, what happens? The holes are created on the 4th position. Holes are created. To that position, electrons are being jumped from the neighboring atoms, and the holes are being moving in the opposite direction. Since these holes are having a positive charge, it is behaving as a p-type or positive type of semiconductor. So these n-type and p-type semiconductors are known as what? Extrinsic semiconductors, which are used to form transistors, NPN and PNP transistors. Okay. Now take down the assignment for today. Is you have to do the exercise questions. Please note that exercise question 17, 18, 20, 22, 25 and 26. 17, 18, 20, 22, 25 and 26. Please
Ma'am, can you
note
repeat
that.
again?
Yes, I'll write on the board. 17, 18, 20, 22, 25 and 26. These questions you have to do. Exercise questions. Exercise. These are from exercise. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the time being. We'll see you in the next class.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Miss.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So let me read others in as well without pen on pen. And you could see the marks, right? Everyone got the mark. You know that you know got pen on pen and you could read out this marks. Pen on pen. Other than Arjun, bolte Arjun, Alan, Jeet Shah, and that they are right. Pages, two ones, and Risha and Kumar, Roshio, Mahira. All these children, please switch on your video and unmute. Vishnu Vardhan, Vaishnavi K, okay, Vaishnavi CK also got 10. So these many got 10 of them. If I left anyone, you can tell me. Roshio, please unmute.
Yes, ma'am.
Roshio, I think many made a mistake in question number. This is shuffled question paper, so I can teach you also ready there, right? Please help Alan P. Address and me. Scoring 10 on 10. Alan P. I'm saying congratulations. Teacher is saying you congratulations.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. But
Teacher,
Yes, ma'am.
congrats.
Thank you, ma'am.
But happy that once you come to school, we hope you all will be back to school very soon, right? So that time when I conduct exams, there are many new schools 1 second. So your seniors have just come to meet us. Okay, I just told them to wait after your class. There is a question that there were two charges, I think Q and Q minus Q. So, what must be the ratio of Q by Q to make the force maximum? So, I mean, the one who got 10 or 10, please explain how you got answer to that. Aaron,
Yes, ma'am.
please help them out. Others also want to know the answer to that.
Yes, ma'am. In this question, we'll consider two charges, small letter q and capital letter Q minus small letter q. And we use the Coulomb's law, F is equal to K into
Very good.
small letter q into capital letter Q minus small letter q, and divided by the square of the distance, that's R square.
Now the question is, what must be the ratio of Q by Q? Let's calculate Q by small letter, so that the force between them must be maximum. So what is the next step?
Um,
How did you get answer?
yes, miss. We differentiate the force with respect to q.
Did you all study differentiation?
Miss, we learned it last year, +1.
Surface, you don't have to do any work. It is same potential. Same potential meaning no work is needed to move a charge from one point to another. That is equipotential surfaces. Now, we have also seen what is the potential on the axial line or the equatorial line of the dipole. And the next thing what we have to see in this chapter is something more about potential. And for that, let us see. What is the potential energy, okay, stored in a system of charge? For example, I have few charges, okay, I kept it elsewhere, okay, and I wish to bring those charges and I wish to arrange them somewhere on this board or in this classroom. So I am bringing it one by one. Okay. And I wish to know if I bring two charges or three charges and if I arrange them at certain distance apart in the classroom, what is the total work I do or the external agency do? The total work I do or the total work energy I use in doing that work will be stored in those charges as its potential energy. So let us see how to calculate that. For example, first of all, in the classroom there is no charge. Okay, so let me consider point A here. There's a point A, there's a location A in the classroom. There is no charge in the classroom. So you know, if there is no charge in the classroom, there is no electric field in the classroom, there is no potential at the point A. It's an electric field free region. Now what I'm doing is, I have many charges in my hands. Okay, I kept it this way. Among them, I'm taking the first charge Q1. I'm bringing a charge Q1 and I'm trying to keep it at the point 2. I'm bringing it from somewhere, a charge Q1, and I'm going to keep it at the point 3. Should I do some work in bringing a charge Q to a classroom where there is no other charge present? Please give me an answer. Should I do any work if I bring a charge to a classroom where there is no electric field or where there is no other charge present? The classroom is charge free. There is no electric field, there is no charge present in the classroom. I am bringing a charge from somewhere and keeping it somewhere in the classroom, point A in the classroom. Should I do some work for it? I want an answer, yes or no. As long as you give me an answer, yes or no. It can be right or wrong. Children, give me one answer. What you feel?
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because there's no charge in the room.
See, when now the answer is correct. I don't have to do any work. When should I do work? Let us see once again. Suppose you charge Q1 to a point A, which is at a distance R from here. This charge Q1 gets repelled by this Q. Because of that, I need to do some work against this repulsive force, and that work is stored in the charge Q1 as its potential energy. So only if there is a charge here. So there is a potential at this point. What is the potential at this point? It is KQ by R. Since there is a potential VA at this point, I need to do some work. If there is no charge in the classroom, here there is no charge. I am bringing a charge Q1 and I am keeping it here. This Q1 is not experiencing any repulsion or attraction, nothing. So I don't have to do any work. So what is the work I did to bring charge Q1 to the point A? The work I did is 0. Did you get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you understand why no work is done? Because no one is repelling it. So no work has to be done by me. I can just keep it, take the charge and keep it here. No work is. So to bring Q1 to the point A, I don't have to do any work. Now I'm continuing my task. I have another charge Q2, and that also I'm trying to bring and keep it at the point B, which is at a distance R from here. I'm bringing a charge Q2 and keeping it at the point B. Q1 is already there. I'm bringing Q2 from somewhere and keeping it at a distance R from Q1. Should I do some work? Yes or no?
Can you repeat?
Now Q1 is already there. Okay, charge Q1 is there. Now I am bringing another charge Q2. Both are positive. This is also positive. Let it be positive. If I want to bring this Q2 from elsewhere and to keep it at the point B, which is close to the charge Q1 at a distance R, should I do some work for it?
Yes, ma'am.
My only answer is only from a single child, Nivedita.
Yes, ma'am.
Why I should do work, Nivedita? Why should I do
Because now there's another charge repelling.
Q1 and Q2 will
Repelling.
Q2 will be repelled by Q1. So what should I do? I have to do some work against this repulsion. I have to apply some force against this repulsive force and bring it here. So energy I lost is stored in Q2 as its potential energy. So what is the potential at the point B? Potential at the point B is K Q1. This is creating a potential here. K Q1 by R is the potential at the point B. At this point, I am bringing a charge Q2. So what is the work I need to do? Work I need to do is K Q1 Q2 by R is the work required to bring a charge Q2 to the point B. So work done. Now to bring Q2, what work I have to do? I have to do a work K. Q1 is creating a potential there multiplied by the charge I am bringing. If I am bringing a unit charge, then I don't have to write Q2. I'm not bringing a unit charge. I'm bringing a charge which has a finite value Q2. We know potential at the point is the work done to bring a unit charge. So potential at this point is nothing but the work done to bring a unit charge. But I'm not bringing a unit charge. I'm bringing a charge Q2. So the total work done is KQ1 by R into KQ2. So it is KQ1 Q2 by R. Is that okay? Now, let me bring one more charge. I told you there are so many charges present there, and I'm bringing one more charge, and let me keep it at the point C. Let point C is equal to, let me call this distance as R1, 2. So I can write it here, R1, 2. Now what I'm doing is I'm keeping it one more charge Q3 here, which is at a distance R13 from here, which is at a distance R. This is our second charge, so R2. Already two charges I did. First case I did 0 work. Second case I did this much work. Now I am bringing a third charge Q3 to the point C. Should I do some work or what? It's so low. Should I do some work?
Yes, ma'am.
Dhruva, Sunil, please unmute.
Yes, ma'am.
Should I do some work?
Yes,
Why?
because other charges are there.
The other two charges will repel Q3, yes or no? If I bring Q3 and keep it at the point C, Q3 will be repelled by Q1 and Q2. So I have to overcome that repulsion. So that I need to do some work, yes or no? Okay. So what are the works? So I need to overcome two forces. So let us see what is the total work I need to do to bring Q3. First work, and so for that I should see what is the potential at the point C. Potential at the point C is due to Q1 and due to Q2. Potential at C due to Q1 is KQ1 by R13. Similarly, potential at C due to Q2 charges KQ2 by R23. This is potential at the point C due to Q1 charge, and this is the potential at the point C due to the second charge. What is the meaning of potential at a point? It is a work done to bring a unit charge. I am bringing a charge Q3. So what is the work done for that? First work I need to do is KQ1 by R13 multiplied by Q3. This is the work done to bring the charge Q3 against the repulsion of Q1 plus I also have to do work against Q2 charge, which is at a distance of R2. So this is the total work I need to do. Now look at here. What is the total work I did to bring three charges somewhere in a region? When I brought the first charge, the work done is 0. When I brought the second charge, the work done is A, Q1, Q2 by R12. When I brought the third charge, I have done this much work. So what is the total work done? Total work done is this plus this plus this. So total work done is nothing but total work done in assembling charges like this is equal to total is equal to 0 plus K Q1 Q2 by R12 plus K Q1 Q3 by R13 plus K Q2 Q3 by R23. This is the total work. This is the case of three charges. If I bring one more, again, I have to do work against these three charges will repel the fourth charge I am bringing. So I will get three such parts. That also I have to do. So that way, as you bring more and more and more charges, we will have to do more and more and more work. Or if I am doing the work, whoever is doing, whoever be the external agency doing the work, they need to spend energy. That energy will be stored in this system as its potential energy. Or I say this is the energy stored in this arrangement as its potential energy. So this particular system has an energy. Now imagine I want to take them back. I want to remove them. I'm going to remove all the three charges from this. If I want to do that, again I have to do some work. Okay. See, I have done this much work to arrange them or to put them in this particular arrangement. Now, one of you wants to remove them back, or you are taking it away. If you want to do that, you need to do the same work to remove them from this arrangement or to separate them infinite distance apart. You need to do the same amount of work. Now, let us do a problem or a numerical related to this. Fine. And usually question comes like this. They mark some charge Q minus Q plus Q. For example, okay. And answer square, so this side has all sides are of. And the question is, what this is what, see what I did is, I have taken four charges, one by one from somewhere and arranged like this. The question is, what is the energy, okay, lost by me, or what is the energy required to do this? The question they can ask in this way also, what is the energy required to remove these four charges at infinite distance away from each other. Both have same answer. If you want to remove them or if you want to assemble them in this format, what work you need to do? Can you do it? Or can you tell me how to move forward? How should I start? You take your textbook, children, textbook page number. Take the textbook and page number, I'll tell you. Page number 63. Page number 63, you can see the same question. Did you see that?
Now there's also a charge in between the center of this square.
No.
Ma'am, in our textbook it's there.
The question that is
Ma'am, it's a test charge, right? You not.
I'll read the question for you. Four charges are arranged at the corners of a square ABCD as shown. Okay. First question is find the work required to put together this arrangement. The Q0 comes as a second part. Let us see the
Okay, ma'am.
question. Please listen. This is the first part of the question. The center charge is another question. Okay. Did you understand the question, children? Children and physics, the problem is you first try to understand the question first and then we see how to solve it. Did you understand the question? What are they asking you to do? Did you understand the question, children?
Yes, ma'am.
What are they asking you to do? Aditya, please tell me what are they asking you to do?
The test charge Q's or to the center. How much work is needed?
No, I'm talking about the first part of the question. We'll go to the second part only after solving the first two.
Work done to
Work done.
together this arrangement.
So imagine in your classroom or the room where you are sitting, there is no charge present. And four charges are there with you, and one by one you are bringing these four charges and keeping at the corners or the vertices of a square, given like this. What is the total work you need to do? When you get this type of question, first you need to do is, let us take up one of the charges. Let us start from anywhere you can start. Imagine we are bringing Q first. This one you are bringing first. Okay. Let me call these sides as A, B, C. Then this is A, B, C. For me to explain. So let us first consider there is no charge in the classroom. I am bringing a charge Q and keeping at the point A. So tell me what work I need. There is no other charge in the classroom. I am bringing a charge Q to the point A. What is the work I need to do? Give me answer. Sankeet. Sankeet. Unmute and talk, Sankeet. There is no charge in the classroom. I am bringing the first charge to the classroom. Or here. What is the work I need to do? Tell me first.
KQ1 by R. Yeah.
Please tell me. Sankeet. Listen to the question once again and give me answer. There is no charge in the classroom or the region I'm considering. You are bringing the first charge to that region. What is the work I need to do? Aisha?
Ma'am, 0.
0. Please, I don't want to check your the chat box also in between. So you can answer. Children, I mean, telling you what are your answer, right or wrong, doesn't matter. Give me some response. It is 0. Sankeet, there is no other charge present, Sankeet. We are bringing the first charge, so it will not experience any repulsive force or attractive force. So we don't have to do any work. So the work done to bring the first charge is 0. Okay. Now let us bring the minus Q charge and let us keep it at the point B. Should I do some work? Say yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the work done to bring minus Q charge? One of you unmute and say. What is the work done to bring this minus Q charge to the point B? The distance is given. Only if I call your name, you answer.
KQ by D.
It is KQ by D, but we have to consider the sign. It's a minus sign. Work is done. When you bring positive charge and negative charge, the work done is different. One is attractive force, other is repulsive force. One is work done is that work is done against the field, or work is done for. So there are two differences. So this is minus Q charge, so KQ by D. Then this is the charge I am bringing. So the potential of the point is K multiplied by Q by D into the charge I am bringing. I am bringing a minus Q charge. So minus Q. If I bring a unit charge, it is KQ by D because that is the potential at the point B. KQ by D is the potential at the point multiplied by the charge you are bringing, minus Q charge you are bringing. So the work done is minus KQ square by D. So minus KQ square by D. Okay. Now, let me bring the third charge plus Q. What work I do? Third charge. This is the charge at A. Now, B I finish. And what about C? Work done to bring a charge plus Q. You are bringing the charge here. This point has potential. This point B has potential due to minus Q charge and plus Q charge. So let us see what work you need to do against this one. Against this one, it is what is the potential at this point due to this charge? It is minus KQ by D is the potential at this point, and you are bringing a charge plus Q here. So this is the work done against this one. What about the potential at this point due to this charge? For that, we have to know what is this distance. This distance. What is this distance, children?
Root 2D.
This is nothing but root 2D. Okay. Now, what is the potential at this point due to this plus Q charge? It is nothing but, okay, let this be here. What is the potential at here? It is KQ by root 2D. Into which charge I am bringing? I am bringing a plus Q charge again. So it is KQ square by root 2D. This is the total work then to bring a plus Q charge and keep it at this point. So one charge you brought, second charge you brought, third charge also you brought. Now we are going to bring the fourth charge. So what is the work then to bring the fourth charge at the point C? So this is the point B. The point C, what is the work then? Work then to bring this minus Q charge again. This will experience, or there is potential at the point C due to 3. What is the potential at the point C due to this one? You know, it is K, Q, okay, by E. This is the potential at this point due to this plus Q charge. And there you are bringing a minus Q charge. So, minus Q. Now, what is the potential at this point due to this one? It is plus K, Q by D again. Again, you are bringing a minus Q charge. So, there is minus. Now, what about this one? It's again plus K. Okay, potential at this point due to minus Q charges minus KQ. Okay, potential here due to this one minus KQ by root 2D. Into which charge you are bringing? You are bringing a minus Q charge. So all these together, this is the work that see we have got the first work done as this, second as this, third as this, and fourth as this. We need to add all these things considering their sign, algebraic sum, and you get the final work done. You can see this is the answer given in the textbook. All of you today itself, you do this problem yourself. This question they can ask, they can give this picture and ask you what is the work done to remove them infinite distance apart. You can follow the same method and the same answer, same work is done or to be done to remove them. Right. And there is one part for the question, that is, if you bring a charge Q0 is brought to the center of the square. the four charges being held fixed at its corners. How much extra work is needed to do this? You have already done certain work to arrange them at the four corners of this. And what is the extra work then? See, as we have done now, only extra thing you need to do is what more work is there to bring it at this point. For that, you find out the potential at this point first. What is the potential at this point? Due to discharge, the four charges are there. All the four contributes potential at this point. Find out the potential at this point. Then, if you know the potential at a point, you multiply by the charge you are bringing. You get the work done. Work done is potential multiply the charge you are bringing to that point. Because potential is the work done to bring unit charge. If you are bringing a charge Q, total work done will be V into Q or QV. So all of you remember the total work done will be always Q into V. If V is the potential at a point, there if you are bringing a charge Q, then the work done is equal to Q into V. We are using this simple formula to calculate all these things. So let's try it yourself today once again. And what happens generally is that you miss the negative sign. If it is a negative Q, you have to use it as negative Q itself. Then only when you take the algebraic sum, you get the correct answer. Do it once at a time. Now, when you read the answers in the textbook, you might think that, okay, I know CC. Because simple maths is used, but that will not be the situation when you try to do yourself. When you do, you will get stuck somewhere. So all of you have to do the problem yourself. Do it step by step. Fine. Then you can see similar problems in the exercise as well. So that's about electric potential and potential energy. And so far, the formula that we have seen in the chapter is what is electric potential. The formula what we got is KQ by R, where Q is the charge which creates the potential at a point. R is the distance of the point from the source charge. Okay. Now, you also learned that what is the work done to bring another charge Q, okay, to the point where potential is V. It is Q multiplied by V. You multiply the potential and the charge you are bringing to that point. You get the total work done. This work done is stored as the potential energy in the charge Q. If you are bringing a charge Q, this work done will be stored in the charge Q as its potential energy. So this is about potential and potential energy of system of charges. And you also get a question. You all know that unit, SI unit of potential, electric potential, we learned it as 1 volt. You might get a question, define 1 volt. What do you mean by saying that potential at a point is 1 volt? I'm saying I have a point here, point A. Potential at the point is 1 volt. What is the meaning of this? You know, 1 volt is nothing but 1 joules per 1 coulomb. Then how do I define 1 volt? 1 volt is, see, it's written as 1 joules per coulomb. So if 1 joules of, I'm doing a work of 1 joule to bring a charge of 1 coulomb to a point, then the potential at the point will be 1 volt. Okay. The potential at a point is said to be 1 volt if a work of 1 joule is done to bring a charge of 1 coulomb to that point. From where? From infinite to that point. This is how we define 1 volt. Sometimes they ask you to define 1 volt or 1 joule like that. Write the formula and try to define it. So this is about potential energy and electric potential. And let us move to the next part of it. We have also discussed what is potential energy. When a dipole is kept in a uniform electric field, the previous class we have seen that what happens when a dipole is kept in a uniform electric field. When a dipole is kept here, we have done like this, and we have written minus Q and plus Q. We understood that if you want to move it through an angle theta, okay, then the work done is nothing but minus P dot T. This is equal to minus P dot T. Do you remember this? Did I do it in the class? Yes or no? At least you nod your head so that I can see. This done in the class or not? Yes or no, children? This derived the class or not?
Yes, miss, it is.
At least, children, I can see you. So if you nod your head, it's a response. Okay. Instead of just like if you don't want to unmute, you just nod your head. Yes, it is there. So we got this minus P dot T. Actually, it is minus PE cos theta, and I have put it in the form as dot product because both P and E are vectors. We put it as minus P dot T. Now, I wish to tell you about few physics which comes where you need to apply this formula. U is equal to minus P dot T. For that, I wish to tell you what is the meaning of equilibrium. Very common question where you get to say state whether this particular arrangement is in stable equilibrium or in unstable equilibrium. Anyone knows the meaning of stable equilibrium? You learned it last year. So, anyone tell me what's the meaning of stable equilibrium and unstable equilibrium? What was everyone's video of? Every month, the fourth Friday, there's a parents' meeting. The last parents meet, your parents have requested us to inform them, those who are not responding, those who are not switching on the camera. Right? So next Friday again, there is a parents meet. So we will tell them, except very few, the teachers have already marked those who are switching on the camera, and except very few, all others are always sitting without arming. Tell me what is the meaning of stable equilibrium and unstable equilibrium. If you know, please tell me. If you don't, tell me. So if you can have any guess. What's the meaning of stable and unstable? Atul Bindi,
Yes, ma'am.
what is the meaning? Stable.
Equilibrium means it's like the force experienced by the charge is zero, right?
Net force.
And net force is zero. Yes.
And what is the meaning of stable equilibrium and unstable?
I don't know, ma'am.
Hope all of you are listening. Please listen to a situation. I am giving you a example of what is the actual meaning of stable and unstable. Okay? It's not something connected with physics. I'm giving an example. Okay? All of you please listen. Suppose there is a cliff like this, or you have gone out, okay, for a picnic or something. And there is a region there, like there's a cliff, which is very sharp at the edge. And then there is a valley like point here. Okay, it's on the ground level. Atul, you are moving with, do you have sibling, Atul?
Ma'am?
Do you have sibling?
No.
Single child?
Ma'am.
Okay. Faust got siblings, right? Okay, imagine
Yes, ma'am.
you are moving out with your younger brother, okay? Maybe 1 year old or 2 year old, like that. A small baby. And there are 2 points. One is on the top of a cliff, and there is another point here. 2 points. And I'm asking you to keep your younger brother baby. You can keep the baby here. Okay. Okay. That's your choice, but you have to do that. Which point you prefer?
The second point.
But both the points, see, the baby is sitting here. Baby is, you are making the baby to sit here and you are making the baby to sit here. Okay, well, baby is not moving. Baby can sit here, baby can sit here. You know, I'm not asking you to keep the baby here so that the baby will fall. If I keep the baby here, I know the baby is definitely the baby will fall, but the baby is sitting here or here. Both the cases, I can say baby is in equilibrium. Am I right? It is in equilibrium.
Yes, ma'am.
Just compare and make you understand what is the meaning of this. So baby is in equilibrium here, baby is in equilibrium. But house is preferring this point. Why?
Because if you put in the first point,
it's more
there's a
safe.
chance of
You
falling.
think this is more safer. Why? A small force is enough. If someone just applies a force, the baby will definitely fall. But here it is more safe, or I can say this is an equilibrium position, this is also an equilibrium position, but this is not an equilibrium. Anywhere over here is not an equilibrium position. Okay, but this point and this point, these are two equilibrium positions. But there is difference. What is the difference? This is an unstable equilibrium position, whereas this is a stable equilibrium position. This example I have given just to make you understand what is the difference in the meaning. Okay, both are equilibrium, but one is stable and this is unstable. So that's it, children. And we'll continue in the next class, right? And, Atul,
Yes, ma'am.
do the prayer.